Today we are going to talk about Arthur's Loose Tooth, which we have already read as a class. Everybody has a copy of the book, and they have it out, and they're ready to go. We've already talked about the book, what happened in the book, so they're very familiar with the book. But we would, everybody's going to open to their first page. That's not the first page. To the first page. And we're going to look at that picture, and I'm going to read it. It was Saturday evening. Mother and Father were at a party. The babysitter was fixing supper. Violet was playing with her doctor kit. She put a bandage on her doll's head. "I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up," she said. "What are you going to be, Arthur?" And I would give them a second to kind of ponder on, what just happened. And I would ask them, who are Violet and Arthur at home with? And I would give a few seconds for hands to go up, and I would expect the answer. They're at home with the babysitter. And I would ask them, well, how do you know that? Who told you that? Where do you see that? And they would say, it's right here. I can't read it upside down. The babysitter. They would say, it's right here, which is a part of the QAR. That's one of the first things, is the right here. It's right here in my text. I don't have to make assumptions. I can see it. It's right here. And then I would ask them, why would somebody be at home with a babysitter? Like, does your babysitter hang out at your house if your parents are home? And I would give them a few seconds, to ponder on why do I have a babysitter? Why, what happens to cause me to have a babysitter? And I would expect the answers of my parents went on a date, or I have a babysitter in the summer when my parents go to work. And we would come to the conclusion that your parents aren't home, so the babysitter's there to watch you, just like in the book. And we would kind of go through the book, and we would talk about, right here. "Only babies are scared of the dark," said Arthur. "Captain Fearless isn't scared of anything. Watch him use the power." Arthur went zooming around the room. And I would stop right there and ask them, well, what do you think happens next? If he's running around the room and looking at the pictures, what do you think happens? And I would let them, conversate back and forth about what they think happens next. And I would hope to get some answers if he knocks things over. You can kind of see the chairs being knocked over, the fruit's been knocked over. And this is a much simpler version than our textbook has. Our textbook models it as a grade 3 and above, but I'm doing it for first grade, so it's more simple than the book models it for. But for first grade, it does have to be made a little bit more simple. The pictures are really helping. So next I would ask them, by looking, maybe at this picture, what do you think Arthur is scared to do? And we've already read the book, so they should know what Arthur is scared to do. But if they look at this picture, what do you think may he be scared to do? And, I would let him kind of discuss, and the answer is he's scared to pull his tooth. But he wants to eat the candy apples that the babysitter made for dessert, but he doesn't want to eat it with his loose tooth because it'll come out, or get stuck, or he doesn't know what's going to happen, so that he's scared to pull his loose tooth. And I would say, how do you know that? And they would, well, in this picture you can see he's scared, and right here in the text. "I thought you said you were not scared," said Violet. I'm not, yelled Arthur. "I just don't like the way that it looks." And we would talk about, him being scared. And then, let me flip it around, I can't see. Okay, then we would go here, and we would look at the pictures, and I would say, well, what do you think happens next? and I would let him, you can tell he's got the string on the doorknob tied to his tooth. He's going to try to get that tooth out. And he was being brave. And it even says it right here. Arthur thought about being brave, and just doing it. And we would talk about a time that we were scared, but we were brave and we did it anyways. And I would give them a worksheet that had a few lines for a few sentences and a box to draw a picture. And I would tell them they need to think about that time that they were scared, but they decided to be brave and do whatever they were scared of. And they're going to write a couple sentences, maybe 2 or 3, about this, what happened, and then they're going to draw a picture for me. So that would be, obviously it would be much more extensive if I had actual students. We would really break down into the book. But this model supports reading comprehension, because it allows the students to really dig into what's happening in the book. It's not just, reading, he bumped into tables and chairs, he knocked over mother's stuff. They're really digging into what's happening and why that could be happening. Why is he scared to pull his tooth? Why can't he eat the candy apples? Why don't you think he can eat the candy apples? Because he has a loose tooth. What would happen if he did? It would be a much deeper conversation if I had an actual student. But it allows them to make those connections and really think about what's happening. So that really supports that reading comprehension for them to understand what's going on. And it also connects to the aspects of language comprehension because it allows them to see conversations being had in the classroom back and forth, and they're listening to these conversations and taking in what everybody else is saying.